Hello everyone. Today we're going to talk about a new lesson in the theme of human rights. The sub-theme is gun violence and children. This lecture will include the following: revise universal basic human rights together, and we will read and discuss the selection Florida school shooting, what happened. Let's begin by quickly going through what the universal human rights are. Number 1, name the 10 basic human rights mentioned in last week's lecture. Remember last week's Facebook lecture. Number 2, name one basic human right that is threatened in the shade of what the world is going through right now, namely coronavirus and other issues of violence. Okay. Now, the 10 basic human rights. Number 1, right to marriage and family. Of course, those are not written in order of the most important to the least important. They are just listed. You have the right to marriage and a family, right to own your own things, freedom of thought, freedom of expression, the right to public assembly, that is gathering to protest peacefully, of course. The right to democracy, meaning you can vote for your own government official, the person who represents you. Workers' rights, food and shelter, the right to education, and security. Okay, so those are the 10 basic human rights we're dealing with. Okay. Now, concerning question number 2, which of the basic human rights is being violated in the time being, or is under danger? Okay, a suggested answer: security and safety. There's a general surge in violence. Okay, there's a general surge in violence across the world, where we see a lot of wars, armed robberies, and school shootings, just to name a few. There are many others, of course. So many innocent people die as a result. Our safety, moreover, this is the second point, our safety, not only in Lebanon, but as a human race, in general, is threatened in the wake of the new coronavirus outbreak. People are afraid. Many are forced to quarantine. Okay, it's not by choice. You have to stay at home in order to save your life and the lives of your loved ones. Others are being very selfish and careless, thus infecting other people with the highly contagious coronavirus. So in brief, we are feeling very insecure in these times. There is a surge in general violence, wars. We can see the war in Yemen, okay, what's taking place in Syria and other places across the world. There are so many armed robberies, school shootings, which we're going to talk about in detail today. Okay, and our safety as a human race is being threatened by the coronavirus. So therefore, we as a human race in general feel insecure and unsafe. Now, in today's selection, Florida school shooting, what happened, we will discuss one escalating type of violence in the West, namely school shootings. Fortunately, it's not an issue in our part of the world, but it is a big deal, especially in the United States, where the number of school shootings have been increasing for a long time now. So this is our selection. Read the following article by Flora Drury, BBC News 27. So she wrote this article for BBC News in December 2018, reporting the situation of school shootings in Florida. When you are through with the reading, answer the questions that follow. Florida school shooting, what happened next? It has been 10 months since Morgan Williams cowered under her teacher's desk as bullets were fired into her Florida classroom. 10 months ago since 17 people died in the halls and rooms of Marjory Stoneman Douglas High School. 10 months since Morgan and her classmates found themselves at the center of the battle for stronger gun control. 10 months in which she has been left feeling abandoned and exploited, at the same time struggling to come to terms with the reality of being a school shooting survivor. So notice how the author started the article okay, with the picture of this school shooting which involved those students in Douglas High. She goes on to talk about what one of the witnesses said. It's frustrating because I know I'm not the same person I once was, and I wish I didn't have this ongoing battle inside between the new me and the old me, the aspiring screenwriter told the BBC just before Christmas. This is my senior year of high school and I absolutely hate it. It's the worst year of my life and I cannot wait until I finally graduate and move out of this area. So this eyewitness, this aspiring student, is going through a traumatic time due to what happened to her. And now she's a senior, meaning she will graduate this year. Now, my question. As you will be asked on your quizzes and tests, how does the author start her article? What purposes does this method serve? Of course, you need to tell me the type of introduction and the 3 purposes. Okay? I wrote the introduction for you here. I copied it so that we don't have to go back and forth. It has been 10 months, Morgan Williams cowered under the desk, etc. So as we said earlier, in the previous slide, the author gave us a certain story, okay, a certain anecdote to start her article. Why does an author generally do that? Okay, the author starts her article with an anecdote, okay, or a brief narration. This method aims to catch the reader's attention, this is one, arouse their curiosity, and introduce them to the main idea of the text. We don't stop at this. What's the main idea of the text? Okay, which is a shooting that took place in a Florida school in 2018. Of course, and the repercussions of that. Moving on. It took Nicholas Cruz less than 6 minutes from firing his first shot to his last to kill 17 people and injure 17 more on 14 February 2018. So for 6 minutes he was just wildly shooting people around, okay? Killing 17, this is a horrible tragedy for a school. And in paragraph 4, the author talked about Emma Gonzalez, who was criticizing the politicians, okay, said thoughts and prayers, the response of so many politicians were no longer enough. So Emma Gonzalez wants that something needs to be done, okay? When people think about Parkland, they do not immediately picture crying mothers and the face-to-face mass shooter. Cameron Kasky, who co-founded the March for Our Lives movement along with Emma and other students in the days that followed the shooting. So, as a result, Emma and her friends founded or co-founded what is called March for Our Lives, which is an organization to shield people, okay, from what's going on, this gun violence that's going on. They think of people, children in particular, rising up and daring our country to do better. And initially, at least, it seemed that politicians had heard their cries. We watched gunmen kill our friends, Morgan describes the shooting. The Florida legislator, and again the legislator, we took this as a vocab word. Legislation means laws, making laws. Legislator or the legislator are the people who make the laws, okay, set about bringing in tougher rules. So apparently this has helped a little in bringing about tougher rules. Less than a month after the Parkland shooting, laws were brought in that included raising the legal age to buy guns from 18 to 21, and this statistic is still very striking to me. I can't believe that it is legal for some people to buy a gun at 18. Really. So it was raised from 18 to 21. This is an improvement in the law. And then they banned bump stocks, which are guns that would semi-automatic rifles or fire hundreds of rounds in a minute. So this deadly gun, would you just press at it and it would just fire on its own hundreds of rounds in a minute. So it would cause the worst and the biggest amount of deaths. Okay. And another improvement, introducing a 3-day waiting period on all gun purchases. Okay, at first, in this state only, by the way, you want to go buy a gun, you just go to the shop, you get it, you get out. Now you have to wait 3 days probably for you to be screened and for them to see whether you have a certain background. Okay, from what you listened to in paragraph 3 to 5, what is the attitude of the surviving students towards politicians? Justify your answer. The attitude, obviously, Morgan and her friends were very critical of the politicians. The surviving students were highly critical, and okay, attitude, when we say attitude, we mean tone, and it is generally an adjective. They were highly critical of their politicians. Emma Gonzalez, a survivor of the Florida school shooting, said that the usual "our thoughts and prayers" always said by politicians is no longer enough. They need to do something about the violence that's taking place. You can also say skeptical if you want, okay, doubtful. Those would be equally accurate. You can also say critical and skeptic, critical and doubtful, okay? It depends on the question. If I ask you for 2 adjectives to describe the tone, you have to write 2, okay? If I tell you what the main tone is, you generally have to write 1. Now, do you think that the March for Our Lives movement brought any changes in legislation? If we go back to the text, yes, it did. Yes, the movement probably brought about changes since, as mentioned in paragraph 6, there were stricter laws for gun purchase and the types of guns in the state of Florida. First of all, now you have to be 21. The type of gun is you cannot use that semi-automatic type of gun. It is banned. And 3, you have to wait for 3 days in order for your purchase to be processed. Okay, where do you stand on the issue of gun control? How serious is gun violence in Lebanon? Okay, we do have issues with gun violence in Lebanon, as we see on several occasions, okay, when a politician starts a speech, when people get married, when people are sad, okay. The issue of chaos in gun control and usage in Lebanon has brought about many innocent victims. Some people shoot when they're celebrating a certain occasion, mourning someone, annoyed, angry, without regard. Regard here means respect for the innocent lives they are taking. This widespread phenomenon needs to be seriously addressed by politicians and their respective followers in our country. So is there a gun issue in Lebanon? Definitely, definitely. It's very chaotic. And every year, several lives, unfortunately, most of them children, are taken because of this lax gun control. Okay? Now, paragraphs 7, 8, and 9. Just 6 weeks later, on March 24, The Parkland students traveled to Washington, D.C. for March for Our Lives, leading hundreds of thousands who took to the streets across the U.S. and abroad, all calling for tighter gun control. That march became a campaign with 10 clear demands, including universal background checks, check that person who's buying the gun, as well as banning high-capacity magazines and semi-automatic assault rifles. The momentum, it seemed, was with the students. But here you see there's a certain contrast. Florida passed those laws, but no other Republican state had followed in their footsteps by September. Okay, only Florida as a Republican state. We know that in the US, they are divided between Republican and Democratic. Among all the Republican states, only Florida passed the law, and probably because the shooting took place on its soil. Okay? In fact, and this is the other strange fact, in fact, research by Associated Press found that some states had actually relaxed gun-related laws, relaxed them, okay? Including Tennessee, Oklahoma, and Nebraska. So they made it easier for the purchase of gun. Okay, a commission set up to look into the issue of shootings in school rejected calls for things the students had demanded, like raising the minimum age of at which you could buy a gun, while suggesting controversially arming teachers. So obviously, those states, the age for purchasing a gun is still 18. You can still purchase a semi-automatic rifle that would kill many people in a minute, and there's no background check on you. But as lawmakers argue over what action to take or not to take, the Parkland students and staff, the parents and families who lost someone that day, have to continue living their lives. Every now and again, there are reminders of just that. Just last Saturday, David Hogg, one of the strongest voices to emerge from the student body, revealed he would be attending Harvard next year. Okay, this guy, he made it, he survived. But then you see the picture shared by Max Schachter, father of Alex, one of 7 14-year-olds killed that day. This guy will not be going to college. His life ended because of this gunman. So name one striking fact presented in paragraph 8. We talked about that already. The striking fact is only Florida as a Republican state made stricter gun control, while others made their laws more lax. Okay, they relaxed their gun control laws. Okay, now, you know, journalists are always interested in such events. The cameras, of course, still turn up every time there is a new development. Something, Morgan says, many of the students hate. You know why? Because it reminds them time and time again. Whenever they're trying to forget, move on with their lives, there goes a journalist who wants to ask them personal questions about what happened. And it really brings back horrible memories. And in paragraph 11, the fire alarms going off in school sometimes twice a day hasn't helped either. When kids were having panic attacks and crying because of the memories that sound brought back. You know, whenever the alarm is sounded, it takes them back to that horrible day when the alarm was sounded for a gun shooting. And then there's the frustration of the slow tick of change when it comes to gun control. Slow tick of change, okay? It's not happening anytime soon in the US. People are still allowed to own a gun across the major parts of the country, okay? I believe that all the activism has made a change. It's just really hard for me to see it sometimes when I constantly get news of another shooting. Morgan says, I don't know everything about the government and policies, but it doesn't seem hard to understand the fact that people are dying at the expense of a gun. Cameron Karski, who spent the summer touring the country with March for Our Lives, is more positive. Legislatively, there have been hundreds of victory concerning laws for the movement, and there are many more to come. So Cameron here is somehow optimistic. If I were to ask you about the tone of paragraph 13, you can say hopeful and optimistic, of course. And how do we know that? Because he said legislatively there have been hundreds of victories for the movement. Okay. Now, paragraph 14, as for Cruz, the teenager who killed his classmates in cold blood, he is awaiting trial. His lawmakers saying he will plead guilty to the charges only if the death penalty is taken off the table. So this guy is still being tried. He told them, I will admit or I will plead guilty only if you tell me that you will not sentence me to death. Okay, after he himself has sentenced so many innocent teenagers and people to death. Okay. According to paragraphs 10 and 11, what do some students suffer from? They suffer from trauma. Okay, a lot of trauma. First of all, there are the journalists who come and ask them about the shooting, bringing back memories, and then some students even suffer from panic attacks every time the fire alarm goes off because it reminded them of the alarm that day of the horrible shooting. Okay, so those students are going through a lot. Now, going back to pronoun reference, what does each of the following pronouns refer to? They in paragraph 5, let's take a look at they. There it is. Okay. Now, in a pronoun reference, of course, I need to look before and I need to look after, of course, in order to determine it accurately. They think of people, children in particular, rising up and daring our country. So who is the author talking about here? When people think about Parkland, okay, they do not immediately picture crying mothers, etc. Cameron Kasky, who co-founded the March for Our Lives movement along with Emma and other students, they think, so obviously they refers to people who are thinking about the Parkland shooting. It in paragraph 10, I displayed the paragraph here, it. Okay, let's read before. She had hoped the new school year would be easier. She certainly didn't think it would be as hard as it has been. So she's talking about, obviously, the new school year. Okay? They, this is how it needs to be written. They in paragraph 5 refers to people thinking of Parkland. It in paragraph 10 refers to the new school year. Full sentence with a full stop at the end. Moving on, organizational skills. What is the thematic relation between paragraphs 8 and 9? I displayed them for you here. Thematic relation. Florida, in paragraph 8, remember again, the author was talking about how Florida passed new laws, etc., including Tennessee, yet other states, including Tennessee and Oklahoma, did not pass laws. But as lawmakers argue over what action to take or not to take, the Parkland students and staff, the parents and families, okay, who lost someone that day, they're asking them to continue with their lives. Every now and again, there are reminders of just that. Just last Sunday, David Hogg, one of the strongest voices to emerge from the student body, revealed he would be attending Harvard next year, etc. So what is the thematic relation between the two paragraphs? It is one of contrast. Remember, there is the word but at the beginning of paragraph 8. This is what you need to look into, especially when you're talking about cohesive devices. It is one of contrast. The writer used a direct cohesive device but at the beginning of paragraph 9. Remember, cohesive devices, there's the indirect links and there's the direct links. The direct ones are generally transitional signals and coordinating conjunctions like and, or, but, okay, etc. The indirect ones are the synonym, repetition of keywords, and pronoun, noun, antecedent. Okay? So here, obviously, it is a direct link, direct cohesive device, but okay, the writer wanted to show that even though legislators came up with laws to protect the area from future shootings in paragraph 8, this has not helped erase the hurtful memories of the Florida shooting. Okay? Now, use two adjectives to describe the tone of the writer in paragraph 12. Two adjectives, I specified that. Look at the paragraph here, and then there is the frustration of the slow tick of change. Look at this choice of words, slow tick of change when it comes to gun controls. I believe that all the activism has made a change. I believe that it has made a change. Okay, that's another choice of words we can consider. Okay, to see it sometimes when I constantly get the news of yet another shooting. I don't know everything about the government and policies, but it doesn't seem hard to understand the fact that people are dying at the expense of a gun. Okay, the author is frustrated here, obviously. It's critical, okay, slow tick of change. Doesn't seem hard to understand the fact that people are dying. So the tone of the writer in paragraph 12 seems, you need to choose two of those only, frustrated, disappointed, hopeless, a little pessimistic, frustrated, and she used words like frustrated and doesn't seem hard, okay? Of course, here you need to make your answer more precise in the justification part. Identify two types of audience other than the general reader who might be interested in reading this article. Justify. Of course, you might have your own answers, but I chose these. Two types of audience who might be interested in reading this article are legislators. Legislators are lawmakers, okay? To see the amount, why did you choose them? Because to see the amount of harm that lax means relaxed or lenient gun control could inflict on members of society. Also, parents of survivors or victims of shootings. Why? In order to read about what is being done about gun control after what happened to their children. Okay? What three types of evidence does the writer use to achieve credibility? Types of evidence, real-life examples, facts, statistics, study results, expert opinions, statements of authority, witness reports. Okay, the author uses real-life examples. By the way, the author uses all of those real-life examples, like the story of Cameron Kasky, who started the March for Our Lives movement. The author also uses facts and statistics. So we said real-life examples. And we gave one example, facts and statistics, like in paragraph 8, where the author talks about states like Tennessee and Nebraska having lax gun control. This is a fact. And finally, eyewitness reports or eyewitness opinions. Reports would be equally correct, like that of Emma Gonzalez, who survived the shooting and became an activist by using, now why does the author use that? You need to wrap up your answer. By using such types of evidence, the author achieved credibility, authenticity, and objectivity. You can also replace one of those words with the word accuracy. Okay? Now, paraphrase paragraph 11. Why the whole paragraph? Because it's very short. I generally wouldn't ask you to paraphrase a paragraph unless it's very, very short. Okay? Remember, in paraphrasing, you have to do the following: citation, explain using your own words, write in third person. You weren't there. Okay? This is the paragraph. The fire alarms going off in the school, sometimes twice in one day, hasn't helped either, she says. Kids were having panic attacks and crying because of the memories the sound brought back. So, start with the citation, of course. In paragraph 11, this is the citation. In paragraph 11 of the article entitled, or of the article Florida School Shooting, What Happened Next, comma, Morgan Williams explains how difficult it was to go back to school after the shooting and how students experience fear whenever the fire alarm sounds trigger the events of that fateful day, that horrible day, whatever you want to describe it. Okay? But you need to mention Morgan Williams' name. Okay, from the previous paragraph. You cannot take this paragraph or this sentence out of its context. You need to mention Morgan Williams. Okay, citation, explain using your own words, and we use third person, of course. Moving on, chart analysis. The following bar graph shows the number of school shootings shooting victims in the US. Examine it carefully and then answer the question that follows. Okay, the incidence of US school shootings between 1960 and 2018. Let's take a look here. Let's analyze together. Look at 1960 in the US, all of US, 16. 1970, 1979, 27, notice, 1, 2. Then, in the next decade, 37. The decade after, 1990s now, 61. 2000 to 2009, 62. 2010, look at this huge surge, this spike in shootings. Okay, this needs to be included in our data analysis. How do we analyze a chart or a graph? Obviously, we start with the topic sentence. Okay, where do we get the topic sentence? Directly from here. Okay, and then you analyze the numbers here. You put the numbers here and what they mean, and finally you write a conclusion. The bar graph, this is your topic sentence. The bar graph shows the number of school shootings, shooting injuries and deaths in the US between the years 1960 and 2018. Here I'm analyzing in this part between 1960 and 1969, 16 incidences, which increased to 27 in the next 10 years. Then again, in the following 10 years, there had been an increase to reach 37. This number almost doubled in the following 2 decades, 1990 to 1999 and 2000 to 2009. The incidence has continued to increase alarmingly, there needs to be an ly here, alarmingly, to reach 139 between 2010 and February 2018, where it reached the highest level ever. So, what do we conclude? This is our conclusion here. Thus, we conclude that school shootings in the US are on the rise, and therefore stricter gun control should be reinforced. Okay, you can write a different idea here. Okay, you can also stop at this. Okay, therefore we conclude that school shootings in the US are on the rise, full stop. Okay. Moving on, extracts. The reading selection has 14 paragraphs, 1 to 14. Each of the following extracts is the correct ending of one paragraph in the selection. Read extracts A and B, then choose from paragraphs 1 to 8 the one that correctly fits each extract. Now, of course, they are taken from the end of one paragraph. after having written the main idea of each paragraph near the paragraph itself in a few words, this will make your job so much easier. It wasn't extract A, it wasn't what the students had hoped for. I didn't think it would be as hard as it has been, Morgan Williams said. Okay, where did they talk about? Here. Okay, in which paragraph? Extract B, it's impossible trying to heal and move forward with my life when I have to see the building every day. Remember when the eyewitness was talking about how difficult this new year was for her. Okay, she's still getting flashbacks. So extract A completes paragraph 2, extract A completes paragraph 6, extract B completes paragraph 2. Now the vocab, use contextual clues to figure out the meanings of each word or phrase in the boxes below, then fill in the blanks with the correct words to complete the following sentences. So you need to go back to context if you don't understand the word, and anyway, going back to context is a good idea because sometimes a word means different things in different contexts. Coward, remember? In paragraph 1, where how she cowered under her teacher's desk. Okay, coward. Exploited, being used in a negative way. In paragraph 1. Co-founded. Okay, founded means established. Co-founded means established together, more than one founder. Set about, to begin something. Okay, passed. Okay, passed a new law, etc. Okay, now legislators in Singapore, obviously the clue here, a law, passed a new law to ban chewing gum. Steve Jobs and Steve Wozniak, Apple Computer. They founded Apple Computer in April 1976. The burglar is a thief, scared me so badly that I cowered in the bedroom closet. Cowered, hid. You know, it's the opposite of what you would do if you are brave. After the earthquake, the people rebuilding their homes set about, started. Okay, so those are the answers of E. So this is it. You guys, after you have to go through this very carefully because you will have a quiz with the material inside this PowerPoint presentation.